Obi-Wan Kenobi Part 4, The Jedi is Back on episode 90 of the Star Wars Reporter podcast. Welcome to the Star Wars Reporter podcast. We're going to be discussing episode 4 of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and we're pretty excited about that, episode 4. So we'll be discussing that only today, unless something else comes up. But before we get started, I just want to introduce my co-host, Trooper Todd.
Hello. How's it
Trooper
going,
Todd
Steve?
barely made it. He was almost drowned in a flood of sorrows.
That's right, a flood of sorrows. Exactly. Our laundry room got a little flooded because our washing machine didn't kick into the cycle. It just kept filling up. So yeah.
So that's how much he loves everyone. He's he just actually it's just still flooding now.
This is still flooding. My wife can take care of it, right?
Yeah.
I got important things to deal with. That's talking about episode 4.
I know, like Star Wars stuff.
You notice my voice got softer so she didn't hear me?
I kept getting close. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Exactly. So before we get started, I just want to make sure that they like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out. And of course, check us out at starwarsreporter.com for all the latest news in Star Wars and nerdness. And so I just got finished watching episode 4 for a second time, just because I take all these crazy notes. Like, it looks like my doctor took these notes because that's how bad my handwriting is. Like, no one uses a pen or pencil anymore. But to take notes on a computer, Yeah. I'm kind of in between old and doing stuff new. So, but I like it fresh. I like it fresh in my head. So
you're taking notes. Do you pause the show or when you're writing the notes, or like how do you do it? Or you just it keeps going and you writing notes?
Well, the first time I run through it, I'll just take notes. But if it's something elaborate, I'll pause and then I'll write something down if I have a lot on my head. But generally, I mean, it's a lot of point forms and I write big, so it's probably not a lot of notes. I wonder if these 10 pages are like 4 paragraphs for all I know. So, but I have to write big because I'm old.
We're getting there, Steve.
I know. By the end of it, my fingers hurt.
It's a forgotten skill, right? Writing with a utensil. Like, I know when my notes, when I write down stuff, it's like, oh, you can't read anything. Like this is just like some notes. Make sure it's not giving out any names. But like my notes, look at the chicken scrabble. Look at that. That's my good writing.
Yeah, I hear you. Or if I'm actually writing something and it's for like a check or something important, I have to write so slow. And my oldest always makes fun of me. She's like, "Wow, you wrote that?" Because I just don't really care. Like, if you see my signature, it's brutal. I don't even know what I'm doing or writing. But
my penmanship is like Obi-Wan's lightsaber skills right now. A little rusty.
I know. You just got to you got to embrace the pen.
I'm asking for Mrs. Leeson to help me remember how to write. She's my third grade teacher who taught me cursive writing.
I remember.
I'm trying to reach out to
Mrs. Leeson. I remember
her.
I
think it's Miss Leeson. Yeah.
I had her for grade 2, I think.
Maybe it was grade 2, Steve. It's possible. It's possibly grade 2. I believe it's grade 2. Yes.
That is so funny.
Were we in the same class by chance? No, we weren't in the same class.
No, I don't think so. No. But yeah. But it seems like anyways, yeah. So that's pretty funny, Miss Leeson. Wow.
I'm sure she's not with us anymore. She was older anyway. Like, she would have been in her like mid-50s back then.
She would have been retiring by the time we hit grade 5, I'm sure.
Exactly. Miss Leeson, if you're out there still, thank you for teaching me how to do cursive writing.
Yes. And happy 150th birthday.
It's more probably like, oh yeah, it'd be up there. It should be over 100 years old.
It sounds morbid that we're joking about that, but it's kind of funny. It's like my oldest daughter she'll make a joke, like if some song's playing she'll say, play that at my funeral. And I remember the first time she said that, I'm like, you might have to talk to your younger sister about that. She's like, oh yeah, I guess so. Because it's like, I'm not planning that. I
Exactly.
should be giving you songs to play,
Exactly, right?
which is going to be a compilation of Star Wars. But anyways,
Oh, see, mine's I Remember You by the Ramones.
you know what? I was thinking I'd like to get an urn that looked like this.
Oh, lightsaber.
I was thinking about
Ooh,
that. Wow, this has
that'd
become
be
really morbid.
cool.
So
That'd
you
be
just
very cool.
whatever, and it goes into the ground or whatever.
That's
Cool,
a
huh?
that is a really cool idea. But that you want to get a dark side lightsaber? I thought you'd be more of
Well,
a lights.
yeah, I'm gonna get.
I was
I
like
want to
Vader
do
lightsaber.
Luke's from Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
I know. So we'll plan our funerals after the podcast.
I'm a little embarrassed, Eve. Actually, speaking of lightsabers, I just noticed today watching episode 4. I watched it at lunchtime.
Yeah.
That the eye in Kenobi is a lightsaber. The first time I noticed it. The first time. That's so bad. I work in film and TV, and I should have picked up that right away, but I guess I'm just so lost in the story and excited I'm watching Kenobi. I miss that little detail.
Well, who really looks at the title? I mean, I feel bad for the artists that do all that work, but
But you know, when I noticed it today, I was like, "Oh, I wonder if Steve knows." Of course, Steve knows. I'm the only one that didn't know.
I see. I'm not observant either. I just kind of, I came across it if I was trying to get a logo for some kind of cover art for all this stuff that we do. So that's the only reason why I know.
Well,
But it was accidental.
well.
But
So episode 4.
Episode 4. I guess it begins after Obi-Wan's rescue, and he's with Tala on her ship, and she's bringing him to safety. And I made a note just before we met before the podcast, and here's an observation. Thinking back now to Tala. Tala is the female version of Cassian Andor. She's got the ship, she's got the droid, and she does spy work.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the lifter droid, I forget his name. He's like,
do you have a name
or whatever? Yeah, it was like ED0 or Ed,
okay, well, it's easy to remember.
Something like that. So I just thought of that. So going, it's just kind of weird.
Did you get the sense? Now, I'm going to be full disclosure here. I got the sense, like, but not even midway through the episode, that she was going to not make it. I thought she was not going to make it.
I thought so too, and like we've talked about this, like Rogue One is so perfect because they weren't doing like George R. Martin with the gratuitous killing of everyone. It was like, it seemed to make sense. I mean, they were a small group going into an impossible situation. They pretty much knew there was no, I'm sure when they went in, they were like, yeah, rah. But by the end, they were like, yeah, no one is living through this. We just got to do the mission. And I thought it would have been perfect if she would have had that sacrifice. Being discovered, let's say, like I thought for sure, like we're skipping way ahead. I thought for sure Reba was going to kill her in that room, and I thought that would make sense, and it would put Kenobi's mission in even more dire straits, right? Because of whatever, but they didn't, and
Let's go back, I guess, near the beginning, I guess. Like I loved how the episode started, where he's in and out of consciousness sort of thing, and everybody's trying to help him sort of thing. Yes, and he ends up in the back tank, like that was, and of course he's reliving the whole entire scenario, right? Like, like he is one traumatized dude. Like, he was having problems before knowing Vader's or Anakin's still around, and after the confrontation, like he's not better.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the burns, I tried to get a good screening of the burns. I find it really interesting. And then, of course, I really like this shot here, just kind of where they're all set up and he's in the back to tank. But for the amount of fire and how he was dragged all through it, and his face is actually completely fine. Yeah. I think he had like a scratch from something, but it was just like tiny burns, and it was fine. And Bacta, man, we need that in our society.
No kidding, right? Like, I'm pretty sure he's been in there for a while. That's why the burns didn't look as bad on his shoulders and such like that. But yeah, like, I can see why they didn't do the face. You're looking at makeup time, and just it holds up the production. And
Mhm.
the stars sometimes don't want to have all that makeup time, but I'm okay with that. But I really liked how the scenario was. I love the flashback scene. It was very haunting. You know what I'm saying? It's very done,
Mhm.
really intense. Had a really good feels where, like, it's showing that Darth Vader's a bad guy, and it just really
Right.
shows that he leaves scars wherever he goes. And again, it's another opportunity to really see how Kenobi is really traumatized by the whole entire situation from Revenge of the Sith up until this point now, and just he's now kind of seems to be reliving the whole thing all over again with something new, which is tragic.
Yeah, and of course, it seemed to be that connection between Obi-Wan and Vader. Like they were both, they were flashing back and forth
Back and forth, yeah.
to Anakin, or I guess Vader now, right? And they were kind of flinching, and it was almost like they were connected, or they were both having their own traumatizing visions on their
Hmm.
own.
I love the
Because
fact that it showed Kenobi's arm, then it went down the arm and it showed no arm, right? It was going back and forth, right? And it was just showing the similarities and how they're both. Yeah, that was a neat little scenario, just that they're both feeling each other out, sort of thing.
yeah, it was really nice how they like. It kind of shocked me at first, the first viewing when I saw when they were going down and there was no arm. I'm like, what? They really changed canon. That's Obi-Wan, but then
Yeah,
I caught on, right? I'm like,
yeah.
oh, okay.
I I did the same. Well, I kind of figured, oh, it's Vader. And I kind of knew because I was like, I saw the arm and went, oh, then I knew right away it was Vader. But and I went, oh, this is kind of like I said, as an editor myself, and just really appreciate the stylistic approach to it, going back and forth.
Mhm.
It really cut well together.
I think my first thing that I wrote down for that opening scene where he's in the back, and I'm like, oh, now Obi-Wan gets his own back to tank scene with the flashbacks because what do we had, right? We had uh,
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett, we had Obi-Wan, and well, Anakin, I guess, but they're both in the same show.
Yeah.
But did we not have someone else in back to tank? Maybe not. I just thought, oh, I wrote down he gets his own back to scene. Cool. I mean, how else were they going to fix them? But and the one thing in in Obi-Wan's flashbacks when he's flinching around, Vader's quote of "You should have killed me when you had the chance."
Hmm.
And I've always said that. He just left him to burn. Like,
Yep.
I love you like a brother. Okay, see you later. Burn. The most horrible death ever you could imagine. I always thought that was funny, right? Like, like he didn't finish him off. And I know it's because, oh, it was a brother. He couldn't do it. But man, burning to death slowly is way worse.
Way worse. Way worse.
So I thought that was it was kind of funny. But anyways, yeah, so that was really interesting. And they must have skipped, right? So then we start meeting all the people that Tala's working with, and they're not really rebels. They're like
Not yet. No,
it's
they're not rebels.
pre-rebels, right? They're just
Pre-rebels. Yeah.
trying to survive and do their own thing and not be bugged
And
by the
trying to help
Empire.
people. They're there and they're trying to help people, right? But they're undercover. They didn't want to get found out. And I don't remember who that kind of mechanic guy was. Who had the backstory. Where his
Yeah,
wife was force sensitive and she was taken out, sort of thing.
yeah. I wasn't sure who. Yeah, I mean, they're like the Underground Railroad people, right?
Mm,
So, and
yeah,
yeah, so here they are. Here, some of them. This is them coming up with a plan to bust into the Inquisitor facility.
and they mentioned speeders in this little scenario. We have speeders. We can go there. I thought they meant like like the single pilot speeders. I didn't think it was like the snow speeders, which I thought was really cool that we got to see snow speeders later on.
Yes, the speeders, and they're like I don't know what the actual number for them, like L9s or N9s or something. I'm not really sure, but that was very cool to see because they weren't snow speeders, right? Because in the Empire Strikes Back, they the one scene, one of the mechanics in the base says we're having troubles
Adapting
um,
speeders to the cold.
to the cold, right? So they
Yeah.
weren't, but how they were sold as toys and stuff like
That's
this
it.
when we were kids.
We call them snow speeders because that's what the toy branding was. Because obviously Canada's like, well, we have to call them. This can't be called speeders. They're in the snow, so we'll call them snow speeders. Obviously, that's what they
Right,
did, right? So we acknowledge them as speeders, right? So it just
right.
makes.
But too bad, you young people. They're snow speeders. like nowadays where they might be used in other areas. And it's funny, like, is that like standard? Like what were they thinking when they built those? Like, we're gonna have the tow cables out the back to do what? It just so happened it worked perfectly with the AT-ATs. So I just thought
Well,
that was
did it
funny.
work perfectly? It worked a couple times, but they weren't too successful with the tow
Yeah.
cable.
I mean, how many did they take down with the
With the
tow
tow
cable?
cable,
Was it only the one?
I think they only took down one.
Right, because then
Luke
Dak
took
got
down,
killed, right?
yeah, and Luke took down the other one, right, with a lightsaber and the thermal detonator.
Yeah, he
But
did
yeah,
that.
that's the only two that they brought down with
Right.
the tow cable. Well,
Yeah.
one with tow cable, the other one, they weren't. Their success rate against those AT-ATs weren't very good.
Well, I mean, we'll get to it later, but the speeders came in really, really handy at the end. So
Yes, well, we're not there yet, but yes.
yeah. So
where are we now? So basically, Obi-Wan decides, hey, we have to rescue this little girl.
yes, we have to rescue Leia, and I really liked when they kind of jumped to the Leia scene where Reva, of course, has caught her, and she's there. I thought that this shot was really cool. Right, it's from outside the base, and they're looking into this window, and it's kind of showing. Right, she's just a tiny, little tiny kid. She's 10, and I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into this. It was just the symbolism of it, of her being so small. I mean, it's kind of like showing danger.
Yeah,
She's alone, et cetera, et cetera. So
reminds me actually. You know what it reminds me of lots of the Bespin scene where Leia's looking through the window in the Bespin city.
oh yeah, that's right.
Right, so it's very similar to that too, because the window's kind of wide like that too.
Mhm.
Um, I know it's totally different, but I think you're proving a good point too. Is the fact that, and the more I see this actress, I don't know her name, but wow, like wow, like
Yeah,
how do kids get so good at acting? Because
I
like
know.
wow, like
Yeah,
she's so good.
like her when Reva comes in to interrogate her and all
Mm,
that, and she's in this scene here. She's yelling like, "You gotta let me go!" Blah blah
I'm a
blah.
princess. I'm a
I
princess of Alderaan. Yeah,
how she says that I'm a princess of Alderaan. I was like,
yeah.
"Ew."
Like well, the thing is, she knows her. Like she's trying to be authoritative, right? And she's trying
Yeah.
to throw her weight around. Like, but as a girl, I just love how it's really showing where Leia's strong attitude came from as a child, right? Sort of thing. Because
Mhm.
when New Hope, she had an attitude, and I really like the fact that it's showing where maybe it sprouted from.
And in A New Hope, she's supposed to be like 18, 18 or 19, but she wasn't the youngest in the Senate, but she was like really long. Like I was just reading up on it, and I think she was a senator at age like 16, 17. So you know what I mean? Like it's I think her parents really made her grow up fast, right?
Hmm.
I guess any kind of royalty, if you look at, say, the British royal family, they're not having
Well,
like a play my Star Wars toys and bust things kind of childhood, right?
yeah.
So,
And then they also know where she came from too, right? So
mhm,
they probably knew that somehow, some way, she was going to have some type of presence in the force, possibly, right? So they're going to
mhm.
make sure that they treat her well and raise her well, and that she had a
Oh,
good head on her
definitely.
shoulders, right? So,
Well, speaking of strong in the force, this scene here with Reva's trying to
oh
do the
yes,
mind read, and she's just staring at her, goes, "Are we going to have a staring contest or something?"
yeah,
Like, and there was no chance. And someone had pointed this out. It was like, this scene is so great because it shows how strong the Skywalker family is in that kind of thing. Like, I
hmm,
don't remember Luke being red or being, any of this kind of stuff happening to him.
right. No, exactly. And the love. There's got to be some ability to the fact that because they searched out force sensitive people, and the fact that they can't tell that she's force sensitive.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell that they're giving little hints that she's definitely has the force and has abilities, but they can't read it on her, which is
Hmm.
kind of cool. Because
Right,
again, I think it goes to the simple fact that this shows that her bloodline is so strong.
right. And she doesn't even know. Like,
No
she's
clue.
probably like, the look on her face that I get, and even her reaction was like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
what are
exactly.
you trying to do?" Like, that kind of, like, how young girls look
Yeah,
at
that's the whole thing. Like, oh, we have a staring contest.
having
Like, she was
daughters,
quite,
right?
she was quite snarky about it, right? Exactly. Like, look at my daughter. She's like,
I
what?
know. It's so funny. And I thought of that. I'm like, ooh, anyone that has girls knows what that look is or the response is.
They felt that sting.
Yes. I was like, I feel for you, Reva. Because Reva was thrown off. Like, I think out of all of the episodes so far, this is the one I felt that she was more, you see in her face, she wasn't as confident, I don't think, or where she's trying to like schmooze Leia about, oh, it's not worth it, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she was playing that game of being nicer, but I don't think she was as confident, like, because she's trying to deal with this child quote, and she can't do anything. She can't get her to talk. She can't scare her. She can't read her mind. She's got
Well,
nothing.
you can't really scare her. You scare her, she's going to really dummy up much more, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like Leia's playing her pretty good. I love the part where she finally says, "Okay, fine, I'll tell you. But first, I'll talk to my dad." And she's like,
That was
I
funny.
finally guess it was like, it reminded me of Homer Simpson. Like, I want to strangle Bart, right? It was so good.
Do you know what I was hoping? That she was going to say, okay, I'll tell you where they are. They're on Dantooine.
I thought the same thing was going to happen. It would have been hilarious if
Because
they
there would have
did.
been two lies, the same exact lie to them, and they're such a big military, power. No one talks to each other or knows.
I'm sure they came across the writing table. I'm sure it did.
Yeah. You know what? And sorry, I'll go back to this because I find it funny because she was like, Reva was telling her like Obi-Wan is dead. Because I hear some of the arguments about this joke that I did. Years ago, you served my father, Glow Wars. I mean, remember that time you saved me and I was 10? I need your help again. Again, you're my only hope. Because I'll get more at the very end of the series. I'll get more into it now, but I kind of think the Leia character in this, as awesome as she is, throws a wrench into the continuity.
It does.
In the story, where I was actually talking to Adam. He was in the office and I was there, so he came down. We talked for a bit. Leia would be perfect and make more sense to be an Ahsoka, because in Rebels, we meet at I forget what season in Rebels, this young Leia shows up and she's doing whatever. And oh God, what was Ahsoka's secret name that she was using for the contact to the rebellion? I forget what it was, and Adam remembered it. So that's how their connection was. And at the end of the episode, everyone realizes that this connection to the rebellion is Ahsoka, and that's who Leia's contact is into the rebellion and doing stuff for the rebellion. So that would make sense to have her injected into that story, being taught, or not being taught, but because her parents, at least her father, through the Senate and other ways, is helping the rebellion. She would get influence, et cetera, et cetera. And I think some time should have been spent, maybe old Ben running into Luke accidentally from time to time to try to, and it would show some of Ben's selfishness too, right? Because he's really checking in to see if he's showing.
No, exactly.
Well, like, like just kind of throwing out selfish things.
I just think I came up with something that they might do to fix the continuity things that you're bringing up. I think, we already know that Obi-Wan's kind of lost his way. He's maybe not strong. Like, in fact, remember he's in his ship and he's waiting. He's trying to move that little piece of metal, small piece of metal. It was like barely moving.
Yeah.
Again, I talked about this before. I just think that he's not. That's why he can't reach Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon's not responding. I think he's lost his way, lost his faith. He's rusty. He's like watching you this episode, watching that swing that lightsaber around. He's not structured. Like you watch the prequels, everything's calm, cool. He's just like he's fighting for his life, and it's not a good form. Okay, so I think possibly because you bring up all this stuff about how it's ruining the kind of continuity, the canon. What if something happens and he comes back or whatever, and they somehow, using the Force, make her forget?
See, I was thinking that, but I've heard them, wiping C-3POs because he's just a droid, right? Like he's not living, but I've never heard of them like if they're going to do, I think I made this joke with Adam. They're going to do that Superman 2. He gives her
The
the
kiss.
kiss.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying Obi-Wan's going to do that, but you know what I mean?
Come here,
Like
Leia.
to like wipe her mind. I think it would be kind of, yeah. I mean, that could be something they're doing. It could be weird. I just thought
how
the
I get around
idea.
it.
I was talking to Adam about the idea that I would say, because everyone wanted to get him off that planet, right? Like everyone's like, Tatooine, kill myself. Like I can't do this anymore. So how do you get Obi-Wan off the planet, you know, to at least do something away from Tatooine when he's not sometimes interacting with young Luke, you know, purposefully. And then that would be a good excuse for Owen to be like, stay away, like leave us alone, instead of, you know, the like the toy thing was cool, but it would be an excuse because he keeps coming around. And so then Luke's going, yeah, I ran into Ben again, and he was telling me about the way it used to be in the Old Republic. That's pretty cool. And then he'd get mad about it. And then how do you get Obi-Wan off the planet? The whole underground railroad for the Jedi, great idea. He could have run into some Jedi, like the one that came to him and said, you know, Obi-Wan could have been like, I can't, you know, I don't want to do anything. I have my mission. And he's like, but we just need a little bit of help to get this thing really going. And then he could have did that. That could have been his get off the planet to help them kind of get the underground railroad on, you know, on its way. And in the meantime, staying one step ahead of Vader. Like if I wanted to say that if they're not going to meet again to have this fight, then they could just say Obi-Wan was just a step ahead of him that was driving Vader crazy. And then at a certain point, he made it look like he was at the other side of the galaxy instead of on Tatooine. And that would be the reason why Vader never looked on Tatooine, because, you know, why would he? Not because he doesn't like sand. I just thought that would be great ideas if you were writing Leia out to be in Ahsoka. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they wouldn't have the same actress, which would be, so, you know, that would be bad because Ahsoka's like at least a couple years out.
Yeah.
At least.
It has to be, I imagine, right? So
I'm thinking they're like 2023, but maybe 2024. So I don't know how it works.
Yeah, they started shooting it, so I imagine it'd be out in 2023.
Yeah, is it really fast? I guess.
Well, they you know, they're working on visual effects right now, right? They have the story, everything's storyboarded, everything's blocked out, and they're working on visual. Like they'll start working on visual effects already, right? Like so, it's amazing the process they go through right now. So
right. So sorry to derail there. Just kind of, you know, things that I had thought about. I actually talked to Adam when we were in the office yesterday. But so yeah, like you were saying, he was on the ship. He's trying to practice. He's really rusty. He's trying to move that little tiny thing, and he's like a loser.
And she just thought he was just because he's hurt, right? I don't think that's a hurt thing. I think that's he's just not lost his way.
She's just being polite. So I never realized this was the plan. So Tala's going to get into her Imperial outfit because she is an active officer and try to get into this facility, into the Inquisitor facility, to get to Leia. But then I never expected this. So Obi-Wan's going to go in through a doorway under the water, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, so I was going, how, like, she landed on the hangar going, how is he going to get out? Like, to me, I'm like, it's just, how is it going to make it, like, how is he going to walk around the building undetected? This is a really good solution. I never even thought of, like, one thing I noticed, like, back in episode 1 was the fact that I noticed that some of the chambers they were talking in was underwater. That's a really cool concept. So that's kind of neat how he could, you know, they talk about how they don't know how deep it is, right? So
now, as weak as Kenobi's supposed to be, it's pretty amazing. I didn't take all the pictures, but he's like swimming in an ocean and doing really well. So he's got to have some of his Jedi in him, you know, to be able to, like, the breathing is fine. It's just, and I could never do scuba diving because like the water sometimes freaks me out. So this scene, I'm like, nah, I would just go in with the ship and take my chance.
Like me, it's the water doesn't bother me. It's what's in the water that bothers me. Like some of those creatures, I went, eh. Like there's one where he's coming in, there's a little starfish sort of thing stuck to the wall with all the teeth. I went, that didn't look very friendly.
I know.
But
Yeah,
a really cool way to gain entry into the building.
it is cool. It's very spy-like.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a James Bond thing.
Yeah,
That's something
absolutely.
James Bond would do.
That is exactly something James Bond would do. But he doesn't have a lightsaber.
I know. He just has a martini.
I love that he takes out the first stormtrooper he sees, grabs him, and dumps him dumps him in the water. He's just floating like I guess stormtroopers float.
It's so funny. Yeah, I thought that was cool too. Again, spy. And there was the struggle and then the splash.
Yeah,
hilarious.
it was
So
so good.
funny. Those poor
It's just neat
dummies.
seeing. It's just neat seeing Obi-Wan do hand-to-hand combat, right? Like, just because the lightsaber might make a little more noise, make a little more splash. So
It's true. Well, I mean, if you looked at the episode 1 where the younglings are being taught, right? They're not being taught with lightsabers, they're doing forms in a martial arts. So I can guarantee you, like any martial art, they're taught how to, well, they're probably taught how to fall,
mhm.
and then they're probably taught how to defend, and then they're probably, they're taught how to then, offensive, and then putting it all together. I
And
just
that makes
remember falling. That's like judo I did, learning how to fall forever.
like Jedi's are peacekeepers, right? So I'm pretty sure they learned defense before offense, right?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
they're not the aggressor; they're the peacekeepers, the negotiators,
Yeah.
stuff like
That's
that.
the one thing when Obi-Wan gets out of the back to tank and he's meeting with with the underground people.
Oh
I
yes,
I made a mention that the guy there, the one guy there refers to him as General.
General.
That's
Yeah,
pretty it's old school, right? It's
yeah,
prequels. It's
yeah.
very,
No,
very cool.
exactly. Even though it's been 10 years, obviously the guy probably knew him or knew of him. So, otherwise, another theory I have, just sorry, Steve, just came to me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I know this is stupid. How you were talking about, how does she not remember Obi-Wan? Well, is it possible she doesn't know that old Ben Kenobi, is Obi-Wan? Doesn't make some sense, but
Well, both of
does she?
them, when I was rewatching it, I was trying to make a mental note of that, and both like Tala calls him Ben and Obi-Wan in the
Okay,
episode, um, and of course, Riva refers to him as Obi-Wan. She knows, sorry, Leia knows that Riva is referring to Ben because she's not giving him up. Um, and yeah, because I noticed that in this episode that Tala was bouncing back and forth between
okay,
Obi-Wan and Ben
right,
because when he's in the ship and he's not doing well, she refers to him as Ben.
right.
But then she's saying, anyways, um, yeah, it is what it is. It's just yeah, it's just kind of fun. I made a note here, and I said to Adam, I can't wait to tell him because he hadn't seen the episode. It was about this point where I started thinking to myself, is this is kind of reminding me of episode 4 A New Hope, which is ironic because this is episode 4. The whole what do you call that, like the whole arc of this episode, Princess is caught, right? They get into the ship. Ben Kenobi goes around, or say it's now Obi-Wan is sneaking around the station to find her. She's in the prison hold being interrogated and or tortured by Riva, well, sorry, or Darth Vader Riva. She gets rescued by the group and their droid. Uh, like, I was like, there's a lot, and I have pictures along the way. I just didn't want to jump ahead of the story that I thought was really cool. When I started coming up with these ideas of what it was like, so Obi-Wan is going in through the water, and Tala is going through the front doors using her. She's an
Authority.
officer. Yeah, and she, there was the tense moments where,
The head of security in that section. Yeah, he was like trying to pull. I'm the head of security in this section. But
yeah,
again, I love how she just turned on him, right? Like
yes,
because she looked nervous. Is there a problem? And then she just turns on him, right? And she leaned into it heavily. I'm your superior officer. Blah 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 blah. And it was a good confrontational scene. I'm really enjoying the fact that the characters have these intense. Again, nothing's happening, but again, it's still really intense.
mhm, yeah, yeah. It's and it's those scenes there where you see in those war movies or the spy movies or the spies trying to get in, and there's always that guard that takes that few extra seconds, and it's that tension that it builds. And then you're right. I like how she turned on because she was a superior rank, regardless, because she was supposed to be in a different, area
System.
of the universe. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. And then you have Ben sneaking around, or Obi-Wan. I had that picture where he's hiding because the stormtroopers, these poor saps, they're like, "Did you hear something?" And then they're searching for him. And here's where some of the A New Hope starts for me. So Ben does this distraction thing.
Yeah,
he does that, and he even points with his finger.
Yeah,
and then they hear something. They go that way. Does that not remind you of this scene?
No, Steve, I didn't pick up on it all until you mention it now, but it totally does. I guess I think I did think of it, but I thought again, you know me. Anytime I see a stormtrooper doing something different that I haven't seen before, I'm just I'm ecstatic.
Because even Ben did that. He does this because they're scared. He does like Ben in A New Hope does this, and then they're like, "What was that?" No, it was nothing. And then it's so funny. And that's what, except these guys at least pulled out their, their blasters and started looking around pretty heavily. But he just did this point thing. And it was a struggle. You could see it in his face. Like, can I make this sound?
It wasn't easy. Episode 4, it's like done episode. This was I'm thinking, that's what I just love, showing the struggle he's having. And I think that's what I'm enjoying the most, the fact that nothing comes easy for him right now. Nothing.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think when it comes to the Force, I think he's doing okay physically, like when he got into the station and he's that, but that's not what he is and what we want. And he's just really rusty. It felt like he barely got that thing off.
Yeah, no, look at his face. Look at the concentration of his face. He's working at it.
I know.
Make something fall, make something fall, make something fall. You know what I'm saying?
Where Ben's just boop, done.
Boop. Yeah, so. It was really good. And then, of course, Reva gets really mad at Leia and decides, okay, well, she's going to torture.
She's going to torture. She puts them on, that thing.
This big needle machine.
Which is really reminiscent, I think, more of Han being tortured, but it's also Rey, right?
Yeah. I love the lighting. Love the lighting in that scene, too. It's all the red sort of stuff just looks so good.
Yeah. Did I get the Jedi? Oh, no, I didn't get the picture. I had it, but I didn't load it here. But it was that picture that was kind of, people are saying it's just like the video game where it's all dark. And then the lightsaber is illuminating the room while he's attacking the stormtroopers, right?
Yes.
So here we go. Obi-Wan finally using, I know he used it with Vader, but it was more of intercepting blows and then running.
Yeah. No,
here he's fighting.
The best thing I love about this one, the first stormtrooper took 3 swings to knock it down. You notice that? It took 3. I was like, boom, 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 3 of them. Whoa, poor guy.
Wow. We needed a Wilhelm yell, or do they just say that for falling?
I think that's more of a falling thing.
Yeah, that's true.
But that was hilarious. But I just thought the first one, the second one, took 2 swipes, knocked him down. But the first one, if you watch it again, it's 1, 2, 3. Cut deeper the first time, dude, and you don't have to worry about it.
I think one of the interesting finds was when Obi-Wan is running to find Leia. He comes into that chamber with all these Jedi and faces.
Yes, that was so cool.
Especially this one. That is creepy.
Yeah,
because it's a kid.
Yeah, the first one they showed was somebody from the prequels, right? The first one they showed. Do you have a picture of that one?
It was with the ears. That was from the Clone Wars, I think.
Oh, the Clone Wars guy.
He was the one that got Ahsoka's lightsabers back.
Okay.
So, and I didn't get that. No,
I remember seeing it, but that was the fact I know it's a tomb. It's not a prison. It's a tomb. They're all dead.
Yeah, I mean, are they in a stasis being used by the Emperor for experiments, or to take their blood, for all the
Yeah, well, you said it's a tomb, right? So I imagine they're dead.
Stuff. Yeah,
it's not like carbonite, right? It looks like they're not breathing. It looks like they're It looks like they're dead.
Little
preserved as trophies, maybe. Who knows?
Well, all this is going on too, right? So you have Tala in that kind of room with just a few other officers doing whatever, right? And there's always that tension. And I always said that Tala in this scene, if I'm comparing it to A New Hope, right? So you remember, and I forgot to put that picture in of Tala at the console, but just like in A New Hope,
the
you got
same
the two
same
people.
communicator too, right? Same exact same communicator.
Yes, because what she does is I had to make fun of this. So this officer's like, "Wait, you come with me," and so she takes him out. So she's like 5 feet away around the corner, and she takes him out. And I thought it was funny because see where he is. He's out.
Yeah.
There's like a doorway behind him. It's all open on the side here, and literally around, like you can already start seeing the desk where some of them are.
Yeah.
He's just there. Like, and I just thought it was so funny. So he's way out in the open, and she comes back and she picks up her communicator and sits back down, which when C-3PO and R2-D2, after the stormtroopers come and leave, he comes out and grabs his communicator.
Yeah.
See what I mean? The only thing was there wasn't a trash compactor that they were being saved from.
Yeah, no, I definitely noticed the similarities, but again, I noticed the communicator, I noticed all that sort of stuff, but I didn't, for some reason, didn't think you went in a big deep dive in there, and there is a lot of similarities for sure. I didn't really pick up on it. Now it makes perfect sense. Yeah,
which is fine, right? Because it's not like they're copying. It's just like because Star Wars people, nerds, really love seeing things from.
Well, they're all Easter eggs too, right? Because everybody loves Easter eggs. Now, what happens? You make Easter eggs, people watch it, they'll watch it again. Again, they want views, right? So if somebody watches something 5 times, that's good for their numbers, right? So that's everything's based off of that. So they're doing stuff to make you rewatch it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the fun too, right? Where you can watch it and you watch it again. You're like, okay, now I'm going to look around if you don't catch it already. But that first viewing of mine, like, I was starting to think, is this like A New Hope? And then once I watched it, then I went back to get screenshots, and then I made notes of go and find this communicator scene, and go and find this picture of them doing stuff. So I just thought it was really, really cool.
And it makes perfect sense. Episode 4, it just obviously is purposely done, which is kind of cool for the fans, and you picked up on. I'm sure we're not the only ones, or you're not the only one.
Yeah, everyone has probably.
Yeah,
or had that feeling. And this was a scene that we talked about earlier that I thought that Tala was going to, get killed, get lightsabered by Reva, because I mean, she doesn't believe anything she's saying, but Tala gives this good excuse that she was undercover and blah blah blah, and this is where Obi-Wan is, on this other planet. But she still didn't believe her. I mean, she cut this woman's hand off for snarking at her on Tatooine. I thought for sure, yeah, she's dead. And then what are they going to do?
Well, I thought as soon as she came in, I went, okay, she's not going to make it out. Then everything she's going through, okay, she's not going to make it out. And that's the point in time for sure. I went, okay, she's not going to make it out. But maybe she does.
Yeah. So, yeah, shocking. But I think we start getting into the scene where so Obi-Wan has Leia, they're escaping, but then they're being shot at by stormtroopers, and Obi-Wan starts deflecting blaster bolts and killing stormtroopers all over the station as they're chasing him.
You know how long it took to kill the stormtroopers too? Like, I keep coming back. I'm just trying to point out all the scenarios that he's not polished. Like, A New Hope, not A New Hope, Phantom Menace, the prequels, one deflection, boom, the droid's gone, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it took some time, and plus hit the glass, right? And he didn't even know he did that, right? So it just shows that, I love it, because even look at his face, it's a struggle. You know what I'm saying? It's not like just calm and cool. Like, you look at all the prequels, right? It's just
really
there's no emotion, concentration there. This one, he's like there's a bit of panic, a little bit of fret, a little bit of effort.
Yeah. He was getting back into it. It felt like.
Yeah.
So, and then of course the kind of last kill I really loved, where then he got into that Obi-Wan pose at the end, and there's Leia. I made a meme earlier that I didn't use, and we're just like, wow, you really are a Jedi and not some old fool or something like that. So, so that's what I thought she was gonna say, something not like that, but just say, Oh, okay. Now I believe you because she gave him such a hard time in episode 2 or
Episode
3.
2, I think it was
2.
2, wasn't it?
It was 2. Such a hard time.
Yeah.
So, and then being chased, and you were just talking about this, him using the force to hold the glass together was pretty cool, and then releasing it and drowning all the stormtroopers.
Yeah, they drowned pretty fast.
I know.
I don't think they weren't struck on the window. You think they'd be like, because they wouldn't have been dead just yet, because it didn't, it happened pretty fast. But
or like shoot out the glass to try to empty the water, but I mean it was the ocean.
I'm pretty sure the blaster wouldn't break. You think they wouldn't, if they're gonna put glass in a blast door, it wouldn't be breakable?
Yeah,
I would think.
Yeah.
Although the glass in the hallway was not, it was kind of breakable. So, well, it didn't shatter. It took a blaster shot, to crack it. But yeah,
I don't think they were expecting to have blaster fights in the hallways, right? Just like they were saying they didn't have a shield over the base because
who would go there? Who's stupid enough to do that, right?
Some crazy person.
Yes.
So, what did you think about? Okay, so Obi-Wan, Tala, and Leia are sneaking out, right? Obi-Wan's now dressed up as an Imperial, and he's got Leia under the coat.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? I know some people are like, that looked so silly.
My first reaction was like, okay, no one's gonna pick up on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Your face hanging out and everything.
But the big thing is, no one was really looking for them, right? So, again, if you're not looking for it, they don't know that anything's wrong. They might say, "Hey, well, that looks weird," but he's dressed up as a Imperial leader, right? So, okay, well, that's him doing his thing. Maybe he's got a third leg. I don't know, right? You don't know, right? So
he's got a child attached to him. It's like a mole.
If they were alerted and they were on the lookout for somebody hot with a girl, then you point that out right away.
Going on, right? The alarm was going on
at that point in time.
Everyone was scrambling around. Yeah, so they were like, we're getting to the hangar. Yeah, it already happened because.
Oh, then if the alarm's going off, then that's a bit of a loophole. Then.
It just was kind of silly, but I mean, who really cares, right? But then of course, I think Reva comes with the whole group of stormtroopers, and she spots them, so they're running, and I have pictures. They're running and they're blasting, and I'm thinking, okay, Obi-Wan's already pulled his lightsaber out. I just thought it was funny that he was using a blaster again, where he could probably, maybe it's just because he wasn't as confident to deflect because he had such a hard time in the hallway doing it.
Maybe, or maybe he didn't want to confront Reva.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were taken off, and then as they were cornered, we were talking about this, right? I don't care.
Speeders.
The snow speeders came in and rescued them. Well, made enough of a kerfuffle.
I'm sure the smarter people than me figured this out, but I didn't know the speeders could hover. That threw me off.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
But it makes sense because the speeder bikes just kind of hover, right? The speeder bikes are always going to hover. They jump on them, then they drive off. Like, you know what I'm saying? So It was weird. I just to see a ship just hover like that just seemed weird.
Well, it was when he was hovering when Reva catches up, and then he turns. Everyone wants to leave, but he's like, "This is not him flying by. This is him hovering." Yeah, and it was a good 10 seconds of him blasting at her, and she's fighting a snow speeder. And then the moron finally, the guy in the speeder, I forget his name, finally goes to leave, and she uses the force and throws I'm assuming it had like explosives in it, like a case, where you carry.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
because it blows up, and
I'm sure it had some kind of bombs or something, or it's just a power cell or something, right?
Oh yeah, the power stuff.
I think it's a power cell. That's what it looked like more like to me.
It's around because it was a hangar, so there were all the other ships there. And there wasn't any gonk droids in this episode.
Well, I don't think the Empire works with gonk droids too much.
No, I don't think they do.
They show the little remote control little droid in this one episode too. It purposely shot that. Do you remember that? It's in the hangar. All the explosions going off. It had a little droid. So again, another recall back to episode 4, where it was in episode 4 too.
Yeah, I didn't get it. But yeah, they would like. I think gonks are like the average person's power droid. Where I'm sure the Empire has just power batteries.
That's what my guess is. Yeah, that's what my guess is. Because the gonk droids seem like old technology, old cheap technology. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Empire wouldn't. I don't think would bother with a cheap little. They'd just get real power cells probably. I'm just
Right.
again, it's a theory. I don't know. One thing, like, obviously the speeders can't do space travel, right? There's like they have like a maximum kind of height they can fly at. I'm
I
guessing,
didn't
right?
think so. Yeah, because they hook up with
Yeah,
another bigger ship.
yeah. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. That's why they're calling them speeders, right? So they're probably more advanced than the land speeders, like they had in Return of the Jedi on Endor, right? I'm guessing because those are like
Yeah.
single pilot ones. But yeah, I just love the design. Like what I liked about this, is it really showed how because they're not really big vehicles; they're small
They're
vehicles.
small. Yeah.
They're
If you
very
look
very small.
at Riva, like look at, I mean,
Yeah,
it's like a 2-seater land speeder that could fly high and has, a cover and whatever on it. It's more of a traditional setup
yeah.
car. And they're in atmospheric vehicles, not. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense why it hovers. But again, I just never. It just doesn't look like a ship that hovers. You know what I'm saying? Because they go so fast. But again, whatever. Like so, that's one that just threw me
Yeah.
off at first. Was hovering. Like, oh, it's hovering. Okay. But
It's funny because that's what the like the people, the guy in the underground said, like they weren't sure if they could use those because they just use them to pull garbage. And I thought,
oh,
oh, okay. So, I mean, of course, like when you're in a rebellion, a ship is a ship. If you just arm it,
yeah.
you could use it to. So if they're just using it for basic things,
Well, that's where I guess why it's designed with a tow cable. So if it's towing garbage, which is kind of cool because you brought that point
yes,
earlier, right? Why does it have a tow cable? I went, well, I don't know what they're using it for, but obviously the writers saw that little thing. Okay, why does it have a tow cable? They have a tow cable because it tows garbage, which makes sense.
yeah, that's right, that's right. So
And
okay, so I'm sorry. Go on.
I was saying they also probably, they probably tow garbage barges too. The barges probably float too, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
put Tokyo, they can fly really fast, towing their garbage or your loot or your crates or whatever.
I have to start looking that up on my old like the RPG game books and stuff.
Yeah,
Where
well,
they have the ships
I
because
think we're discovering that again all the rebel stuff they're probably just vehicles ever used for other things that they conditioned for battle, right?
right.
But they still have the
Um,
heavy blasters though. There's a lot of big blasters for towing garbage.
yes. Uh, so Vader, we get to see Vader again, very angry Vader, and
Oh, he seemed a little bit testy. It looked like he woke up on the wrong side of the bantha tank there.
back.
Bacta
Yeah.
tank, sorry.
So he shows up and he's like, Riva failed him, so that's this is it for her. I thought
Yeah.
this scene, like how it was shot, was pretty cool, and it's underwater, and I think the other Inquisitors, as much as they don't like, they look kind of scared.
Well, they did this scene, right? Like, well, first of all, earlier in the episode, there was, they were blaming everything on her. Like, this is all her
Right.
fault. They got invaded because of her. This is all happening because of her. But yeah, when he's on on premises, they
Yeah.
look very concerned and worried.
Right. So, basically he's gonna. That's it for her. But then she says basically they're being tracked. Right.
Yeah.
So he lets her down, and someone pointed this out that I was listening to that said Vader was very not Vader in this moment. Like he didn't even take some of his anger out on the stormtrooper, or maybe give Riva a nice cut with his lightsaber, or do something violent with her. Even though, because as it turns out, we figure out that Riva, when she was talking to Leia, we didn't really go into it, was holding her little. Because I made a note, I'm like, why would they let her keep all of her stuff? Like
Hmm.
she's got her little droid. Well, she planted a tracking device, like in A New Hope,
That's
in
right.
R2D2
That's
to
right.
find out where the not rebel base. It's still like an underground right now. Um, so that's why he lets her not get choked to death.
He's a compassionate guy, I guess.
I know
She
he's a
proved
sweet
her
guy.
usefulness. She proved her usefulness. So okay, I'll keep her
Hmm.
around, sort of thing. But he was very upset with her. He was about to discipline her, and she was able to squeeze out some words.
Yeah,
At first when she said on track, I planned on a tracker on the ship. And I was like, what? No, when she had time to plan a tracker on the ship, and then
yeah.
I felt so like, oh, of course, because she had the droid in her hand, right? Like,
Mm,
yeah, it was again. I thought it was a really good episode. I just liked
mm.
how it left a nice little cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was
Um,
really interesting because I took this shot here because it was the two sides of the story here. So on the left you have Ben, or sorry, Obi-Wan, I'll say, and Leia, happy ending. He saved her. It's like, whoo, relief. On the right, you have sadness because the one guy who was in the speeder died. Their friend died.
yeah.
So you have the two sides of war, right?
Yes. That's a Steve, like this part I found this part really emotional.
Hmm.
It was just like, it was really
Hmm.
strong when she reached out and grabbed his hand.
Yeah.
It was so good. And again, and the whole thing about them and they found out the other guy didn't come back, right?
Yeah.
Like what did Kenobi say? What was it Kenobi said? No, what she said. What did she say? She said something to him when where's Wade or whatever, and she didn't say anything. She just
Hmm.
like, and then she said, well, I guess you're involved now or something. What did she say? You saw it twice. What did she say?
I didn't. I don't think I wrote that down.
She said something that I thought was really good, which basically says like, well, you're in the thick of things now, like
Yeah,
sort of thing.
something
Like,
like that.
yeah. So 'cause they wanted to stay out, and now they're in, and now they're in for sure. Yeah, but I didn't even pick up that, Steve, about how it divided the
Yeah.
sadness. Like you said, the spoils of war. There's some, here you have Leia and Kenobi happy.
Hmm.
They're dealing with loss and grief.
Right. And
Like
again, it's that big, empty, dark looking area,
no hope.
wide out. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's just setting a great tone. It's not a happy ending. Like it seems like a happy ending, but it's not really a happy ending. Like Kenobi thought that everything was worth it. The other people were questioning, was it worth it?
Yeah.
Right? Like
Because they had a friend die.
yeah. It's just like opens a whole can of worms and just feelings and emotions and stuff that you don't think of as a viewer. But this like because we're not in the battle of war, but like this is stuff that happens all the time for people who have to face this stuff, right? Like you think about the
Right.
people, not to get political, but people in Ukraine and what they're dealing with, right? Like yeah, they have a lot of victories and they're holding stuff down, but they're losing people too, right? Like it's
Mm,
that's just makes it surreal and just like wow, just the thing. We get to enjoy this as entertainment, being
mm,
privileged where we live, and just like you don't really think of that, like wow. And I think that's why
right.
I got a little touched and a little emotional because it's a powerful scene. The whole
It's
thing,
it's it's funny. Like so many stories we have, it doesn't seem like a lot nowadays because there hasn't really been big wars like when we were younger. You're looking at World War II, Korean War, things like that were still within purview of people's lifetimes.
yeah,
So if you're doing a war story or a Star Wars and you're doing wars and fighting, I like the fact that, or I think it's good writing when you show the costs of war. The cost, like we can go on about victories and have our parties and rah rah, like we did it, but there's such a cost and a sacrifice. Like I think we talked about this offline one time. You know, 18, 19-year-old kids or younger who did what they needed to do and sacrificed everything to for victory. And uh, to me, that ending kind of showed that, or showed it to a degree. I'm sure there's movies and stuff out there that did it a million times better, but
of
it was
course.
just very simple. The two sides, the victory and the cost.
We mention this all the time when watching Bad Batch and all this stuff. Like there has to be repercussions for some things to do, and it's tragic that Wade didn't make it back, but at the same time, it as a story arc going, it
Mm,
really sets the tone for future things. The fact that this is the early stages of the rebellion, right? Like
mm,
it's not nothing established. This is one portion, like okay, like it just hits home that tragic things are happening. The Empire, you
mm.
can't trust the Empire, there and yeah, it made for a real powerful ending.
Yeah, I liked it. Again, it was uneasy. Like there hasn't been any victory endings. It's I mean, you could say, okay, well they got Leia back, so that's a victory, but it's bittersweet. Everything is bittersweet until Return of the Jedi ending. Everything is bittersweet. And I think,
Yeah,
even the ending of Return of the Jedi, Luke just went and did that burial ceremony to Vader, his father. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's still bittersweet, but it had a better song.
Hmm.
with the Ewoks, so it felt better. But everything is bittersweet, right? Because I'm sure that every Remembrance Day or Veterans Day that happens, we won, but it's bittersweet, right? You can
Hmm.
tell that in the faces of the veterans who are like in their 90s still crying about a war
Hmm.
that happened 80 years ago
No, exactly.
or like
Well,
7 years ago.
just the burden and the post-traumatic stress they deal with every single day afterwards, right? Like, the horrors they've
Yeah.
seen and experienced, and this is one brief little glimpse into something where, hey, we won this battle, this rescue mission,
Mm-hmm.
but again, there's a cost. The cost that was paid. Again, we thought it was going to be. Sorry, her name was starts with the T.
Oh, Tala.
Oh, we thought it was going to be Tala. Like, I thought it was going to be Tala, but again, I think it was important that somebody did make it back. It's terrible to say that, but it's important for the story arc that somebody did make it back.
Yeah, I like the realism in it. If
Yeah.
there's no sacrifice and no danger, because we're criticizing the Bad Batch for a lot of that. There
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem to be a lot of cost or there was any kind of danger.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the darkness and confusion of the universe at this point, like in the Obi-Wan series,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just kind of a mess for, say, the Republic or what's left of it, or whatever, the pre-rebellion. So that's one of the best scenes that I appreciate. I'm not like a film artsy guy, but I saw that and I took a screenshot of it right away. I'm like, this is really cool what they did here. Victory and the cost right in
Mm-hmm.
this scene in this wide open, dirty, dark ship.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
it's all sad. Everything is sad in this whole series.
There's no sunset. There's no cheering. There's no. It's just weep. Obi-Wan's emotional because he has Leia back. The other two are emotional because they lost a friend.
Mhm.
There's a lot of emotion in that one shot. Really.
It's very, very cool. Yeah. So wow, I took that down. I just thought that was cool. Anyways.
No, it was, and again, told. You're coming off episode 3, which was a huge, huge, huge high, right?
Mhm.
Again, so how do you follow this up? I thought they did a good job. They kept the pace moving.
Mhm.
It's not episode 3, but at the same time, the progression is going. There's character development for both Reva, Leia, Obi-Wan.
Mhm.
Her name, what's her name? Tala.
Tala. Yeah,
Tala.
I meant
Tala, like,
some of the smaller side stuff.
right?
Yeah.
Like, there's character development in each one of them, right? So again, that's what you need. You just need the story to keep progressing. There's no
Mhm.
filler episodes. It just keeps progressing. And again, the stakes got higher, right? Again, it's not maybe as intense all the time, but it's hard to be intense when you have Vader on the screen and then you don't, right? It's
Yeah,
but at the
yeah.
same time,
Hard to
a good,
compare it.
you know, again, loving the series. Loving it. To me, it's my favorite series so far. Like bar
Yeah.
bar none.
Yeah, I'll take strong story over having action every single episode. Like, I get it.
Hmm.
Action is pretty fun, but just having spaceships shoot at each other and people shoot at each other every episode, it's like, okay, but what are they doing when they're not doing that?
I'm gonna lift Man of Steel up. The movie Man of Steel, the first Zack Snyder Superman movie. Again, I thought it was a great character development story. Then it has a 20-minute fight scene, and I just lost interest because the story didn't
Yeah,
fit, and is contradicting what the characters. I believe the character is right, so it just didn't
yeah,
work.
yeah.
Again, but
I agree with
it's
that.
pretty and it's got all the special effects. But again, if there's no storyline, but it's not working, who cares, right?
Yeah,
It just
yeah, I agree
or
with that.
you look at like Transformers 4 and 5, like like there's no story. Who cares?
Yeah, that's true.
The
But I
one thing
meant,
George
yeah,
Lucas always says, right? If there's no story, everything else just doesn't work, falls apart.
yeah, very, very true. Well, yeah. So that was a good episode.
It
That
was.
was uh, that was a good episode. So
I'm a
two
little sad.
more,
There's only
two more
two more
episodes.
left. I'm sad. There's only two more left. Like
Two more.
I could watch more Obi-Wan, couldn't you?
Yeah, I might be wrong here, but I think that perfect, not overdoing it, would be a one and done for
Yep.
Obi-Wan,
No, that's
and
good.
then
Yes.
move on to Cassian, Ahsoka, and then people we don't know of,
Yep. No,
like
I get you. I get you. But
whoever's out there, whoever they steal from, from the old stores.
Facebook's full of stuff, right? You hear all stuff like I hear stuff when people are already talking about season 2 of Obi-Wan.
I heard that too.
Like
Yeah,
again, I don't know if it's true or just people just talking. You never know, right? But I
yeah, it'd
wouldn't
be
hate it.
interesting.
I would hate, but again, I think more storyline will more opportunity to damage that continuity stuff, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay. Like if they instead of 6 episodes, it was a 10 episode one season, and like you said, the more they go, the longer they could probably the
damage, yeah.
continuity. But 10 episodes probably would have been the best. But I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not
Well,
a
most
Hollywood writer. So
yeah, well, you look at the Marvel series, like some are 6, some are 8, some are they're all
mhm,
different lengths, right? So again, I think it's whatever the story is. So again, 6 episodes, each episode's like 45 minutes long. That's 2
mhm.
movies worth, right? So we're doing
Yeah,
okay. We're doing okay.
yeah,
So we can't be too too spoiled because they are doing it and it's working, right? As Star Wars fans, we have to be
mhm.
happy they're doing something that's not falling flat like the prequel of the sequel trilogy, right?
Sequels. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, we have 3 things. We got Cassian, Ahsoka, Mandalorian season 3, Acolyte, all within the next 2 years, I think, right? 2 or 3 years.
Bad Batch season 2 coming out.
Oh, Bad Batch. Yes, I'm really, 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 really looking forward to that. Really
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
and like you're saying, hopefully a little more, consequences happening within the team. Like they don't win every episode. Like that's what you're looking for. But the first trailer looked really good. Sorry, teaser looked really good, and
Mhm.
sign me up. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, thanks everyone that was tuning in the chat and maybe watching us later on YouTube. Be sure to check us out next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on our social media, which is Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, YouTube. So, with that, good night, Todd. Thanks for showing up.
Good night, Steve.
Thanks for the disaster in your washing machine.
Well,
And still showing up.
unfortunately, our wash machine wasn't using the force, and it leaked out. I need Obi-Wan there to like hold the water inside the wash machine from spilling on the floor.
Yeah, we'll send them over.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.